Now, when I first started learning about money, wealth, and finance, there's something that actually happens, some rewind that happens with a lot of books, and they actually ask you this question all the time. Like, if you were actually on your deathbed, what would you basically be thinking about? In that moment right there, what would you wish that you actually would have done then? And whatever your answer is, they would basically tell you, well, why don't you do that now? Because when that happens, you won't actually have the chance. And the answer is, although the intention is actually great, what you're going to do, it's not really that, okay? If you only have a day left to live, you're going to take some certain actions. If you have 10 years to live, you're going to take some different actions. But the overall idea for this video is, when people do get to that point, there are 5 things they usually tend to think about. And by you knowing this now, you can make adjustments so this way when you do get to that point, you're not worried about these things in the end, okay? So as you watch this video, I'll also tell you exactly the mistakes I made in the past too, so this way you don't make those mistakes either. Now, right off the bat, do me a favor and smash the like button and like this video, really appreciate it a ton. And by the way, it's not meant to be like a morbid video, but it's meant to be like a realistic video. Like, that's something we're all gonna deal with at a certain point, unless God comes tomorrow. But for the most part, like, most of us are probably going to deal with that at a certain point. So it's good to think about exactly what you can be doing right now instead of waiting until the end and then basically getting into regret mode, okay? Now, the first thing is that there was this lady, okay? And this lady dealt with a lot of people that were basically like terminally ill and were basically like, you know, about to pass away. And she kind of noticed exactly what these 5 things basically are. So these aren't things that I'm basically making up. No, this is what this lady basically discovered when she was actually experiencing all that stuff. Now, the first thing that she basically figured out is basically, number 1 is people really start to care about this, okay? They wish they had the courage to live the life they actually wanted to live in the first place. Now, it's not like saying, I wish I basically did bungee jumping. I wish I did this thing. But for the most part, we live in a capitalist society where capitalism and marketing and companies, they're always trying to push you towards buying something and doing something and thinking something, like buy the big house, go to college and do this and do that. And for the most part, whatever your dreams are and things you actually want, they kind of just get pushed down and pushed down and pushed down, which is like what actually happens. But for the most part, when those people actually get to the end, what they really think about is all the time they spent trading time for money and time for money and time for money, and how really it's not really to that much benefit at that point, and chasing a career and all that other stuff. Okay, so having the courage to live the life you actually want to live. And that doesn't mean be irresponsible and basically dump your family or go crazy, don't get a career, don't do anything, just basically go ahead and do whatever you want to do. But it means like have a balanced lifestyle in the sense of while you work the job you need to work, also go out there and basically do what you actually want to do. For me personally, I had a massive issue with like, you know, like this capitalism thing of not being content, of wanting more and wanting more, until I realized, like, want more for what reason? You have more, and people that have more and have a lot in abundance usually don't even have the time to enjoy it. So it's like you have to learn to be content, to be able to live the life you actually wish you were living. Now, number 2, guys, is going to be, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Now, I remember my friend told me once, you know, Tommy, no one ever gets to the end and says, you know what I wish I did? I wish I would have worked more hours at the office. Like, no one says that. No one says, I wish I would have put in more hours. I wish I would have gone harder at work. Like, no, people don't really think about that towards the end whatsoever. They tend to think about the things that truly matter, like family, spending time with family, raising your children, having your wife or whatever, having your friends and being there with them. Like, all those factors that actually matter, that's what they usually tend to think about. And also like God and all that other stuff. Okay, so those things matter a ton. Not exactly like, oh, what did I do? You know, I wish I would have put in more hours. And I had this issue too, because my whole perspective was I need to work. But then, like, I enjoy my work, but my work can't be my life in a sense. And I see that happening with a lot of people, like even my family, where, like, for example, my grandpa's super old. My grandma's super old, but my grandma can't really do much and she's at home. And my grandpa still wants to go to work for absolutely no reason. It's not for the money. And he basically goes to work because he wants to. And then he doesn't have that much time with my grandma. And I think that's like probably not the best thing to actually do. But right now, he actually got sick and he's not able to actually go to work as often anymore, and that makes him have to be home now and spend more time. And I think that's actually something that's actually very valuable. Okay. Now, number 3 is I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Now, one of the worst feelings, and I would say like the worst sins, is like resentment, and also, for example, bitterness, because it's like one of those sins that you can be resentful, you can be bitter, but only you get hurt by it, because the person you're actually usually like putting that attention to, whatever, they're not even aware of it, because you're not even telling them how you feel or why you feel that way. So one big thing that you could do is basically be able to express yourself, like, and just basically speak your mind and say exactly how you feel from a loving, humble point of view. I learned that from the Bible. You know, I had an issue. Well, I never really had an issue per se. I've always been kind of like okay with just like confronting things up ahead, but I had a bad way of doing it. But then I kind of learned, like, when you want to talk to someone about something, you have to do it from a place of love, humility, have to have patience, and have to be able to realize that people aren't perfect. You're probably going to fail at a certain point too, and you're probably going to need a little bit of grace also. So those things matter. So whenever I have an issue with somebody, I kind of think about it, and then I basically go to that person and I try to express it, but not from a confrontational, like problematic point of view, but more of like, hey, here's something I want to tell you, and here's the way I feel, and I come to you in a loving manner, and that way, okay? Now, number 4 was, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Now, this is true in a sense, and also, like, not true. Some relationships, friendships, romantic ones, platonic ones, whatever, like, they're better off, like, never being touched again, in a sense, because some people are just like not like people you actually want around you. But then for the most part, if you do have great people around you and you have great friends, you have to remember that just like any relationship out there, the reason relationship basically works is because the time and the maintenance you actually give relationships. People need attention, especially friends and family and romantic relationships. Like all these relationships, they need time and attention. And that's one big thing, I used to think that, for example, the trade-off of more money and more work and more stuff like that was worth the like neglecting family and friends and all that stuff, and it isn't, okay? In the sense that you always want to set time aside to call a friend, to ask what's going on, to send a gift every now and then, to just maintain the relationship. Now, number 5 and the last one here is, I wish I would have let myself be happier. Now, I think happiness is subjective, and happiness is also a choice in a sense. And happiness at the core point is like doing more of the things that actually make you happy. But happiness isn't, for example, like this one thing you want to keep chasing, because it's also finite in the sense that sometimes some things make you happy, maybe sometimes they don't, and that feeling kind of goes away. But for the most part, you want to design a life where you actually are doing something of substance, okay? And that way you can feel the most fulfillment, okay? That's my advice around happiness in a sense, because happiness is like this very shallow thing if all you care about is, I'm going to do exactly what makes me happy all the time. And that's not really what life is just about, okay? But you can design a life where you actually feel the maximum amount of enjoyment from the things you actually do. And some things that you do, they're not going to make you feel that happy, but there are things that you need to do in a sense, okay? And life is about purpose, okay? And for me, as a Christian, the purpose is, glorifying God in every way possible. But for the most part, that is what life is about. And for the most part, these are the 5 things that this lady found out after doing all her research and basically studying all these people. And this is what it actually comes down to. When you actually come down to get into that date and being there in that bed or on that chair, wherever you are, and you're questioning your life, you don't think about how many hours you worked, how much money you made, and how much jewelry you have. You don't really think about those things, okay? You tend to think about family, the purpose you had in life, the things that you actually did, the way you treated the people around you. Were you happy? Did you do the things that made you happy? Did you have good experiences? Like all these things are factors, okay? And it's better to realize these things today when you can actually have an effect in some way, then realize it when you're on the edge and there's nothing you can do. But as long as there's something you can do, there's always time, okay? So that's pretty good for the most part for this video that's kind of morbid in a sense, okay, guys? But that's basically it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. On top of that, up here's another video. I probably will make a video like this again, man. This video is kind of like all weird and stuff, okay? But and up here's my face too. But these are topics that are important because whenever you have a channel about finance and money, people tend to kind of like objectify money and only think about money. But money's not the only thing, okay? It's important. You should respect it. You should want to be responsible with it, grow it, and all those things. But it's not the only factor when it comes to life, because you can make all the money in the world, and all the money that has ever been made in the world is still in the world, because when you go, it's still gonna be here anyways. Okay, so that's one thing too. All right, thanks for watching. Peace out. All right, I'm done with this video.